G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting episode of Talking Stuff, and it is a very exciting episode because not only have I got my dude Aaron sitting right there excited and as happy as can be, we've actually got a special guest coming on tonight. He is so cool, he is so groovy, we've decided to leave him hanging in the green room for the next 20 minutes. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? Is that the way to treat a guest or what?
It's not. It's a fully stuffed stuff tonight, isn't it? If we've got three of us coming on.
We are fully stuffed. I tell you what, it's like getting Kentucky Fried Chicken from like Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's full of the Colonel's original recipe. I tell you what, it just goes down really, really good. How you going, old son? I heard you've been busy as all hell.
Tonight's episode, you get the original recipe, and we've got Shane, who's a bit of hot and spicy.
I thought he was a bit of a zinger burger myself, but there you go.
I'm going well. I've had a very, very busy day today. As you would know, if you ever come into the shop, I'm not talking to Dags as he's in there a bit. Sometimes we get a bit messy and it gets a bit out of control. Today was a bit of a winter clean where I just cracked it and said we're doing cleaning the whole day. So I've had a busy day moving stock around, getting stuff upstairs and getting through the lay-bys that have been there forever, contacting people and putting stuff out. It's almost like finding all this new stock to put out that's been there for months.
So you've been chucking out the stock, chucking out the staff members, mate. It's just a day of chucking stuff out. So it's very, very cool. That is great stuff. Well, guess what, fans? We've got a lot to cover off tonight before we bring Shane on. And I haven't pressed this button for quite some time. So now we should, because we've got this to come up. It seems relevant because I watched Robocop 3 on TV not that long ago, which was very, very groovy. All right, what's going on in the world of sci-fi stuff? First things first, and I've got to say this one did cut me up a little bit. Good old Halo, the TV series, has been cancelled. For those people who played the game, they absolutely despise this particular show. But for those who never played the game, and I'm pretty much one of them, absolutely loved it. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And the end of season 2, and it's Gonski's, Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon about that?
I know. I heard about it because Kale said to me in the car, guess what? I'm so happy Halo's been cancelled, because he was one of the people who's a gamer who didn't like it because it didn't follow the game story enough and it changed things. I'm in your boat where I was pleasantly surprised because I heard a lot of hate for this series and watched it, and it's a good solid sci-fi series. It's just a pity they called it Halo, so it had the expectations for Halo fans to be of the game.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. But from a production design perspective, and it's just its look and its world building, you couldn't beat it. Now, one thing you can't beat is the fact that we've got our guest in the green room and he's actually putting in comments because he can't talk at the moment. So he just has to send messages through, which is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, with Halo, yeah, I mean, I can't remember if it ended on a cliffhanger ending, but I think it did. So unfortunately,
it ended with that sort of zombie spore stuff happening, almost like
that's
right. The Last of Us. So that was from the game apparently, but we're not going to see what happens there now.
No, I don't know why the reason I got cancelled, whether it was because of ratings. It wouldn't surprise me if it was from cost, because it did not look like a cheap show at all. But hey, we got 2 seasons of it. There was some really, really cool stuff in it, and I guess maybe it could be like Firefly in years to come, where it just gets this massive cult fan base. Halo TV series, yay team. Just don't say that at PAX, because then people just throw things at you. So unbelievable. What do you reckon about that, Mr. Aaron? Very exciting.
Yeah, well, it's not exciting that something's been cancelled, but I guess, wouldn't it be funny if the next Halo game, they adapted the series and then everyone was like, oh no, it is canonical now.
Yes, indeed. I like this from Russell. Yeah, Halo there. Exactly right. This is popping up a fair bit in recent times. Now, it's kind of funny. We're in the 2020s now. You would think the past is the past. Just leave it all behind. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And yet, for whatever reason, 80s movies that got made, obviously in the 1980s, are now hitting their anniversaries, right? And like we mentioned about Aliens a couple of episodes ago, Aliens Expanded or whatever it's called. Now apparently Terminator's getting a re-release. So the 80s just won't die, which is a good thing. I'm not being critical of that at all. So everything is hitting its anniversary. Like Dune, of course, is its 40th anniversary this year. Obviously Terminator now, and stuff is just getting re-released, or like getting a lot more exposure to the masses. And I reckon it's fantastic. So this stuff just won't go away, Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon?
It's kind of like when Back to the Future 2 got to the date where Marty came to the future, they re-released it in the cinema, and it was kind of interesting to see what they got right and what they got wrong. They got a whole lot wrong. It wasn't anything like they predicted it was going to be. But it is funny again when you hit the dates, like when Judgment Day happened and it came and goes and stuff like that. It is a good kind of anniversary when they do that, to put the movies in the cinema for the weekend. I guess that gets people interested just because of the dates.
So what I think is interesting is that so these films are hitting their anniversaries and they're getting re-releases. And to be fair, Spanker has said it's a bit of a cash in, and to a degree it is. But it seems to be more 80s movies are getting that treatment rather than things from the 90s or even from like 20 years ago, in the 2000s. So the 80s clearly has such a big impact on the whole pop culture science fiction like fraternity that people saying, yeah, bring this stuff back now, this is going to work. So for example, if they did as an 30th anniversary of Fifth Element, would that really take off, or a 20th anniversary of iRobot or anything like that? Probably not. But these movies, I mean, they were hits at the time, but clearly someone has said, yeah, they're going to be hits again if they get released on the year that they of their anniversary. So yeah, I reckon it's really cool.
It is one of those things where there were revivals of older movies, but I do think the 80s was the first year when parents use videotapes to babysit their children. So there's a whole generation of kids who, got videotapes and watched these movies 30 or 40 times rather than just before the age of video where you saw something when it was on TV once or twice. So it's almost like you've got a ready-made wave of nostalgia coming from people who viewed these things when they were kids.
That's a very good point, actually, because obviously in the 70s, that sort of technology didn't exist. And I thought it was interesting, like, for example, we mentioned Aliens Expanded is being released, but it's you don't come across a lot of anniversaries for movies or stuff from the 70s. So, for example, you wouldn't have a Soylent Green 50th anniversary. It probably just wouldn't make any money, wouldn't sell. But Alien would, Star Wars obviously would. Yeah, anyway.
Can you imagine Ridley Scott's diary where he's like, is it the anniversary of the director's cut or the ultimate cut? Oh, no, it's the ultimate cut of Alien. Oh, no, it's the extended cut of Alien and the original cut of Blade Runner. He has so many versions of his movies. He could probably have an anniversary every year.
Yeah, that would be pretty fun, especially for Blade Runner. Yeah, we've got the 10th, the 20th, the 30th, and the 40th all right next to each other. Absolutely. I like this from Christy. Still waiting for a self-sizing clothes. Would you like self-sizing clothes there, Mr. Aaron? Would that really work for you?
Well, I kind of just I'd like a self-sizing me to fit into my clothes. That would probably be a better option.
Yeah, I love it. Spankin did say, yes, they made the best movies in the 80s. Well, it is the decade where sci-fi for the entire decade was absolutely on a roll. Now, last week we talked about The Acolyte, right? Star Wars, The Acolyte, blah, 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 blah. Whether you like it or didn't like it is completely irrelevant. And, of course, one of the key things that they put in it was a hint of Darth Plagueis. Already, WAGs are coming out with images of Darth Plagueis for season 2. I made a bit of a balls up last week. I said, Plagueis is the same species as Cad Bane, and I realized I was completely off target because he's a Mun, which is the banking guild, the international banking clan. So he's that species. So look at that. I thought, well, people are coming up with really, really good ideas for Acolyte season 2, but already Acolyte is out the door. Gornsky's forgotten because Skeleton Crew is the next thing that's coming along. So it's due to come out in about 3 or 4 months' time. Another Star Wars series, yet another live action one. I think Jude Law's in this, got a whole bunch of kids lost on a planet somewhere. It's like out with the old and in with the new. It's almost like they've done a Morning Ralph, Morning Fred scenario. Acolytes just walked out the door. Skeleton Crew's walked in, and it's just like, yep, okay, what's coming up now? And what do you reckon about Skeleton Crew, Mr. Aaron? Is that kind of pushing your buttons or what?
Have we got the one image that was released for it at the Disney thing? I kind of, I don't know. It's not doing anything to me at all, really. I looked at it and I thought, oh, who are they aiming this at again? I'm just waiting for Andor Series 2.
Yeah, with the point where I was coming at is that they're like production line in these programs. It's just like it's Star Trek almost went through this to a large degree as well, where they're producing one show and just as one's finishing, the other one ramps up, and the fans just go, "All right, I've already lost track of where I was." Like now, probably no one's really talking about Acolyte. It's already been a week late. It's a week after the fact, and now when Skeleton Crew starts to appear, and I guess there'll be trailers and whatever else, that'll be the next talking point. So. I guess for some people, there is that argument of saying, is there an oversaturation of the market? Are there too many products being released? And of course, this is a good example where that may actually be the case. So, yeah. Putting it simply, Disney pumping out so much crap. Well, that's entirely up to the individual to determine if it is crap or not. But I guess like a lot of things, if you see something you don't like, you just got to wait 5 minutes and then something good will come along with a bit of luck. So,
Yeah.
Yes, leave Star Wars alone. Too much too quickly. Even nerds need a break. Oh, I love it. Do you need a break, Mr. Aaron? Are you just good to go, son?
I like eat up all that Disney crap no matter what. So that's why I need the self-fitting clothes, I guess.
Actually, here's a good point. If Shane's mentioned, he's still sitting in the green room, by the way. If you did Ewok shows, would they actually sell or not? You do sort of wonder what would be a good formula for a new Star Wars show. So,
A good
indeedy.
Star Wars show would be, like where everyone goes down and it's like a battle royale to see how many Ewoks they can slaughter. That would be awesome.
Oh, geez, wouldn't that just be chunky as? Absolutely fantastic. Well, anyway, so that's it. Acolytes out. Skeleton Crew's coming, whether you like it or not, but it's in the works. We'll be probably talking about it on this series in a couple of months' time. Another thing which has just popped up, right? This is another trailer that just arrived just recently, and of course, it's the new series of Rebel Moon. Now, of course, you might remember Rebel Moon was a two-part movie, two movies, which is one big story, released on Netflix just a couple of months ago. And already they've said, nah, bugger that. We need a director's cut, right? We're adding all the violence, more blood, a bit more gore. And Zack Snyder's put this together. And I mean, the trailer for this has only just dropped. And to be fair, in these images, I've actually removed the hardcore violence. And some of it actually looked a tad comical. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? There's just blood and heads and body parts everywhere.
Well, there are people that like that. It's one of those, it can be so over the top that it's funny and entertaining. I don't think anyone really revels in that much violence. I mean, there's a classic line in a Bond movie where Q says, well, now you've turned up, I hope we're going to see some gratuitous violence and sex. And obviously that's the kind of thing that sells. I mean, it does seem a bit too soon to when they release the standard versions. I'm a bit cynical about the whole. They could have just released both of them straight up, but they know this way everyone watched it, and now they've gone back and said, "Well, here's the better version with all the titillation and gore in it that we didn't show the first time round," hoping to basically get everyone to double dip and watch it again. Kind of would have almost preferred if I waited and just watched this version. It's not unprecedented. I mean, there was a M-rated version of Total Recall, and then when it came out on VHS, there was the M or the R-rated version who liked the more extreme. And the R-rated version of that, I think, is better. Rebel Moon, I don't think was a good enough production to warrant a different version of it anyway.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because I think, briefly discussed it here. And so Zack Snyder's trying to start up a whole new franchise because originally, so the story goes, he pitched it towards Lucasfilm. It was meant to be a Star Wars based story. They said no. So he just made it himself. Two separate movies, part one, part two. They effectively go together. Released on Netflix, right? And so, yeah, I get that. But there was always talk that there was going to be a director's cut, which is kind of funny because you think in a streaming service, it'd be the director's cut anyway. It's his program. He wrote it. So to do a variation where they're just going to add all the violence and all the sex back in, and they've put that in the trailer. So if you get to see the trailer, I mean, it's gruesome and it's gory, but it's not like horror movie gore. It's like your head is like it all looks digital from my perspective. And I agree with you. It's like, why didn't you just release the R version in the first place? Unless you're trying to cater to two different audiences, it just doesn't seem to make a great deal of sense. And whether it makes the movie, the two of them together, better or not, I don't know. Maybe it's just better for those who like a bit more adult content. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. It could be the marketing of people looking for the Snyder cut of Justice League, and they see the Snyder cut of this, and so it goes into sort of that area of like, oh, it's the better cut that Snyder put together himself. But as far as I know, he's put both of these cuts together, so there shouldn't be a better version if he had control of both of them.
Well, at the very least, I mean, Rebel Moon, both one and two, they're passable, they're okay, but yeah, they weren't the greatest thing ever. Maybe this version will actually be a lot cooler. As an example, like with Watchmen, for example, there were two versions of that, and I think he made Watchmen as well. And if you watch the director's cut of Watchmen, the violence is really amped up, but it comes up really good and actually makes the film a better product. So I'll watch Rebel Moon, this version. And to check it out, and hopefully I'll come back and I'll say, yeah, I really liked it. It really worked for me. I prefer what I see. Because it was a war thing after all, so there was a lot of fighting and carrying on. It was all done very, very tamely. So maybe if they put all the violence back in, it'll sell it a bit more. Yeah,
it is interesting because I think Chad told me there's going to be a Snyder cut, a director's cut of that the first movie he did with the girls in the asylum. I forgot what it was called. with Baby Doll and stuff. And the Snyder Cut of Watchmen, I think it's good with the violence and some of that. That did improve it. But then I thought it was a bit bloated with all the comic book stuff when they added all the pirate stuff. I could have probably done without that, you know. But to have it as an extra on a DVD is fine. But trumpeting it on Netflix as, you know, a new product almost, I don't think it's going to catch on that well.
Yeah, I did hear there was a version of Watchmen where the Black Freighter stuff was taken out, but yeah, that did detract from it. Shane, who's still sitting in the green room, we're going to bring him in a couple of minutes, actually. 300 meets Star Wars in June. Yeah, that's probably a good way of looking at it too. So anyway, when it comes out, we'll check it out. The trailer's there. It's funny, you know how they get like the green screen with the American, like, got a rating. This one's all red. It's rated R. Oh my God. You know, mature audiences only. You got to sign into YouTube to see it and everything. And yeah, you're not like, it's gruesome, but it's just like, oh yeah, it's, as I said, it's more MA rated gruesome and based from what I can see. So yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's that, right? Done. Okay, that's the news done and dusted. Now I guess that we got to bring in our dude. We've got all these people watching saying, where's this guy? Where's this dude? We want to see who's this mysterious Shane Cook. He's been sitting in the green room. He's posted a couple of messages. So I guess we should just get around to it. I bring the lad in. So everybody put your hands together because it's now our guest, Mr. Shane Cook. Oh, look, there's a complete round of applause.
Well, thank you, Dags. Can I be heard? Can I be heard now, or have I got to be only on typing?
You can. Let me give you a bit of an introduction, though. Shane Cook is one of my oldest friends. I've known him at least 30 years through fandoms we've been involved with, and I knew Shane through the Doctor Who Club of Victoria, where we got up to all kinds of shenanigans in our school years and just beyond our school years, I guess. And we've kept up a friendship over all those years. And I have found with my friends, friends that I have from fandom are often the ones that I keep, because people come and go who have hobbies and families and things. But if you are in fandom, you kind of still like the same things and still catch up with each other once in a while. And one of the things that Shane has done and been involved with that I do myself is collecting Doctor Who stuff. And may it be like the magazines or the DVDs and the Blu-rays or autographs, but I would say Shane's biggest passion at the moment would be the action figures.
Yeah,
what a fantastic introduction. Hang on, I'm going to jump in. I've only known Shane for 5 minutes. I really don't give a shit about it. No, seriously, I've actually met Shane 30 years ago as well.
Dax. 1980, Mr. Star Walking.
Yeah, I know.
88
exactly
or something like that.
No, it was the late 80s. Yes, we did cross paths, and then we've sort of rekindled again once Aaron's store opened up, and you've been a massive asset to the fan community, and particularly into the modelling community, which is one of the reasons why you're here. So first things first, we're going to talk about all the creative stuff that you've done, but tell us a bit more about yourself. No, tell us a bit more about
first. I feel a little bit left out here that you guys are embracing pop culture. Aaron with his Alien T-shirt, shirt. Dags, I don't even know what's on that, so I'm going to bring in a bit of my fandom as well.
Okay, very good. Nicely done. Okay, now you watch. You'll disconnect his headphones, and he won't be able to talk to us.
Yeah, that won't work. There we go.
Shane, yes. We're trying to interview you here. So give us a bit of a background as to your history regarding the whole, mainly the Doctor Who side, I guess, because you're part of the Doctor Who club, and I think you're the president at one point. So give us a quick rundown as to your history, man.
52 years in 5 seconds. Doctor Who came to me in the late 70s, early 80s. I definitely remember seeing the Tom into Davison regeneration and getting that first DWM where you're like, him? No, actually, it's a program guide. The program guide had a little picture of him in the bottom corner of Davison. That was the first time I ever saw that new Doctor. Then wind forward, I guess, 9 or 10 years and was involved in the Who Club of Victoria, ran that for a couple of years as president. Then I met my wife. So we all moved on. We all moved on in different directions, as one does in life. And then had absolute joy introducing my kids to the new Doctor Who when that came around, which is almost 20 years ago now. And as my kids started to grow, older, showing them Doctor Who, and to this day, my daughter refuses to watch certain. Actually, she refuses to watch Jodie because Matt Smith was her Doctor. but she's older enough now that we sit down and watch House of the Dragon together. So yeah, that's a quick little 5-second rundown of who in my life. But come late teens, as I said, my kids were older. Well, no, wind back a bit further. That I built a TARDIS in 2010, which, if anyone was around at the Davison Day back in 2010 or 11 in Melbourne, there was a TARDIS on stage. That was one of my pieces of work because I built a couple of them. Then, late teens, it was all character options figures. I was buying everything and eating up as much as I could, and as much as Aaron could get in from overseas, as much as I could get from Who and A. They were selling them at the time, back when our dollar was a lot stronger. And I looked at a Pertwee figure. I had a spare Pertwee figure one day, and I looked at it. And I said, you know what? If I painted that jacket green, I've got a Monster of Peladon version. Now, you don't know what I'm talking about here, Dags, but Aaron certainly does. And I looked at the Monster, I looked at that, painted it green, and I've just gone, huh. From that moment on, oh my word. One of the first projects I did, if anyone can see, which way does my head go?
That's right. We'll send all the pictures later. That's all right. Yeah.
Man, this does me head in. Let's go.
Anyway.
Yeah. Up in there, there'll be a console. I made the Davison, Colin Baker, McCoy console. Aaron had one in the shop for a while, actually. And that was one of the first ones that I made. And I'm like, 3D printing. And
so maybe you could take us through the process where you went from customizing one figure to deciding you wanted to make every variant of every Doctor, every variant of every companion, and as many of the monsters as you could.
Yes,
was it like
I'm at that stage, right? No, 2 years, 3 years of making the odd figure here and there. And the interesting thing was, it brings you into a realm of Doctor Who where you start to look at the costumes. I mean, everyone will always say, Tom Baker's the guy with the scarf. But then you realise, yes, he was, but that scarf, there was 4 different versions of that scarf. You think there was only 2, but there was 4 different versions. And then you realise that the jacket changes. And he sneakily changed his shoe colour in certain stories, or he changed his little, what do they call them? Not cravats, they call them ascots. The ascot was slightly different. And you start to look and go, there's a different version for every story. And then, until Nathan Turner came along and decided to uniform everyone, there was different costumes. So I started then thinking, well, that was when character options switched to the B&M line, and they were producing a lot of figures that were reuses of bodies. So you could get some bodies relatively easily. And I thought, all right, I'll start tackling different Toms or different Pertwees. And then before you know it, I may as well keep going and fill every story. And then you get to the companions, and you're like, yeah, I'd really like every version of Sarah. I'd really like every version of Tegan. And thankfully, I joined a group on Facebook. There are a couple of multiple groups on Facebook, Doctor Who figurine customizing. So if you're interested, you can look that up. And there's like-minded people on there who create some of the great little heads you're looking at there. I know for a fact, having had conversations with Al myself, that a lot of characters won't eventually see the light of day. So being able to create them, the one in the middle there was a very fun one to do, which was the a little variant from Green Death, where the Doctor dressed up.
I'll hold you a second there. When you say having spoken to Al yourself, do you want to explain who you're talking about there?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So that's Al Dua, who's the man who actually is the head creative production house, I guess, of character options, and does all the designs and the concepts and punches out what he wants. And he's the man to do with Doctor Who figures. He's the one that everyone likes to either praise or bash whenever the B&M kits come out every year, and they say, couldn't you have done better, Al? This is fantastic, Al.
So I would say we're lucky.
I got some questions I got for you. So you go first, Aaron, and I'll jump in.
I was just going to say, I would say we're lucky having Al as the head of sort of the creativity for Doctor Who, because there are so many toy lines where what the fans want and what the fans have as with interaction with the people making them is non-existent at all. You get what you take. At least with
Yeah,
character
definitely.
options, you get someone who is obviously a fan themselves involved in the line, and he does let some hints out of what's coming that you might not get in other lines, and you do feel that they take feedback as well. Is that kind of how you feel it is?
Yeah, definitely. I've actually shared a few photos of the stuff that I've come up with. One of them was a nice little. I shared a picture probably about 6 or 8 weeks ago of an idea for a 3-pack of a B&M set that I thought would look fantastic. Story specific, a Fourth Doctor story, reusing some figures that hadn't come out before, that hadn't been out, for a long time, and one Doctor version that hadn't been out before. He was very positive. He's quite open to enjoying watching all this. In fact, the figure I've grabbed in my hand is one that I probably made about 2 or 3 years ago. And when I showed Al, he's like, "Oh, I love that." And it's a good reuse of body parts. And that's that little fella, which is one of the android men from Android Invasion.
Hang on. There you go. Sorry.
You got me there?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's one of the android men from Android Invasion, one of the troopers in that. And that's reusing a Vashta Narada body, a spacesuit body, with a nice head that's available on some of those Facebook groups. And that comes up really well.
Again, I'll step in there just for viewers who might not know. Doctor Who, although a popular television series, does not have a lot of budget for the action figures, and we can't get new figures because, when I say we can't get new figures, we can't get totally new sculpts for figures because there just isn't the budget there. So a lot of the figures have to be adapted from figures they've made before. So you might have a body and legs off of one figure and arms off of another figure, and then there might be enough money to do a sculpt. So in some ways, character sort of customize existing stuff to get new product out in the same way you kit bash stuff to make a new figure as well.
That was very much the way I approached it. I mean, I'd seen there's a few people on YouTube, such as Captain Jimmy Pie, Tom Fan's another one who produces magnificent custom figures. They're both very good at sculpting with green stuff, which unfortunately is not my forte. But I got to the point where I thought I'd like to create these figures that I make from parts as if they were being made by character. So an example of this is this one, which is an Ian figure. And the entire body is Ian, but the jacket or the coat and the arms is then from a Fourth Doctor Zygons and repainted. And then straight away you've got Ian from An Unearthly Child when he has that overcoat on. So that's a character head, character body, character legs with different character parts. So that's something that I sort of approached when I came to that. Now, there are also groups of fans out there that are absolutely magnificent with their design work. And just the last maybe 6 to 12 months started branching into full body designs on some of these characters. Now, this one is I know that will never be allowed to be made as far as character options or the BBC goes, because there's infamously for decades has been rights issues. But that's that one. Now, that is a full kit. Sorry, go, Aaron.
So explain why there's rights issues on that for people who wouldn't get it.
Well, technically, back in the 80s, the BBC with John Nathan Turner ripped off what would be called, was it the Licorice Man or was it? No, Arnold All Sorts.
Bertie Bassett, the logo
Bertie
for
Bassett. Over here in
Australia,
it's Arnold All Sorts, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
Arnold's All Sorts. Yeah, that's that Bertie Bassett man, which was some kind of a lolly man all put together. So there's a little bit of, issue with that. And I know the BBC never really sorted that out. And everyone would know that coming up on the Blu-ray box set coming later in the year. We're going to get Happiness Patrol. But working through a lot of these designs and just coming up with ideas, I've always got 10 to 20 figures sitting here on the boil ready to be finished off, waiting for parts, waiting for heads, waiting for that that Chinese eBay seller to list that certain figure that I can buy for $10 instead of $45, because we all know Doctor Who figures certainly go up.
So Shane is a regular in our shop, and this is probably sacrilege to some fans. He will be buying figures to boil and pop, which is a process where you boil a figure to pop the head off or arms and legs and change them around. And I was shocked because I haven't been over to Shane's house maybe for a year, and I was over last week, and the amount of figures you had seemed to have doubled since the last time I was there. How fast does it? Are you working on multiple things at once? How do you go for themes? Like, I'm going to do all of one story, or do you have different things working at the same time? And the other thing I've noticed, this is a long question, you are obviously a lot more interested in the classic series than the new series.
It's what I grew up with. It's what we formed our love of Doctor Who with, was the classic era, when, as I said, from the late 70s forward. So you grew up in that era. I mean, look, I remember the times when we all used to swap videotapes because someone had a copy of Planet of Giants, 4th generation video. For anyone who doesn't know about that, every time you copy a video, its quality reduces. They used to get passed around from fans, and you'd be jumping at joy that you get to watch Hartnell in a 3-parter. So my love for that show's been going on right since then. Took a bit of a lull after after Paul McGann left. And there was like a good 8 years there, and Star Wars prequels took over, and there was a lot of prequel figurine collecting. And then it came back, and then Al Duar decided to start producing fantastic 5.5-inch size figurines.
All right, I'm going to finally jump in and get a word in here.
Thanks, good to see you there.
Are you guys having a wonderful conversation like you would at the store? Actually, there was a couple of questions that have come through.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I'm desperately trying to get to them, and we are going to show a video of your collection. So someone's already made mention about what's behind you. So I just wanted to get this out of the way. We're going to put that on, and you guys, you can explain what it is that we're looking at, Shane, and how it all came about. Keep this one relatively short. But there was a question from Karan about what you think of the new series. So you can keep that relatively quick if you wouldn't mind.
I've enjoyed 50%. So
cool.
I love Shooty. I thought he was a great choice as the Doctor. And there have been moments when there are storylines that are absolutely suited to how he's portraying the Doctor. Having said that, I'm not sure the season started as strong as it could have, because I'm going to try to work out how to say that. I went to
Just keep it short. So
yeah, I saw Deadpool today, so my vocabulary is coming out a little bit.
Done. All right, that's it. We're going to move on from that. Okay.
No. Space Baby started literally with farting spaceships. So that.
Yeah. All right, we've answered the question. Right, done. This is from one sculptor to another sculptor. Yep. Okay, Spankin has asked, do you sculpt some of them like the heads? He's talking about the figures.
Non-monsters I will try, but again, as I mentioned on those Facebook groups, there are people that do design work.
You're clicking something up on the desk. Can you not do that? We're picking it up on the microphone, like you're clicking a pen or something. Yep. So please.
So there are, most of the heads come from some of those custom groups. There are people out there that produce and do the 3D design work on those. So the heads are often a very important part of the figure. Like here's one, for example, that head's very iconic. It's exactly what we wanted. That's the main point. That's the main point of difference for that storyline, and then you can put that on an existing body. Now, what I did come to the realization quite early on is I can't paint eyes, not at that scale. That scale is just insanely small from a man in his early 50s. So I will say that I came across the idea of using decals. So I get into Photoshop, copy out Tom Baker's eyes from images, set them up, print them on little decal paper, and then slop them on. Like if anyone ever used to make models, you slide the little decals on using a bit of water, and you soak the paper in that. So that's where the heads come from.
I'm just going to put this last comment up for Mark. Then we're going to show the video, and Aaron, you can continue your conversation with Shane. Had to pick his jaw up after grab when he saw Shane's figure collection. So for people who haven't seen it, and you won't have seen it, here's a video that Aaron put together, and you guys can have a bit of a natter about what it is that we're looking at.
So maybe, Shane, it might be easier
Yep.
as you go through the video to
Yep.
explain what it is and point out some highlights.
Can we pause as we go?
You can. No, we
Right.
can't actually.
No, we
So
can't. Okay.
it was meant to be just an overview of what it is we're looking at.
That was the Tom Baker era we just looked at.
Yeah.
I made story-specific figures for most of the companions, most of the doctors, and then I obviously got to a point where I thought the new series got to be that 10 year, 15 years ago that it started to become nostalgic as well. So started to go back and create some figurines from the new series. Now that big green one down there is the Maya, and that's one that has been made from one of those designers on those Facebook groups that actually build full figures. And that's that puppy there. That is an absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful figure. When this came through the mail, I looked at it and thought, oh, wow. And when you get this particular one, it was almost like painting a tank. You had to not think about painting a character and actually address rust, green coloring, metalwork. So it's covering a lot of areas as far as what you come up with. So that's where we are there again.
I'm just hang on. I'm going to jump in with a question. How many of these are customized? Yeah, no. How many of these are customized? By the way, well, most of them.
I tried to do a count today because I knew someone had asked that. I think I'm around 500.
Wow.
I think
is that 500
customized? Yes.
Sorry, is that 500? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that shelf there, you've got all the. Oh, no, we moved on. All the Fenrics from the side there. The Curse of Fenric story there. Most of those Sarahs are. Those two there certainly are. Hatless Brigadier. That's Sontaran Experiment Sarah. She's customized. Pertwee's there are customized, except for that one with the black tie. Now that mutt or mutant, however you want to describe it. Earlier this year, Al Dua, who I mentioned earlier from Character Options, released the files for that because he acknowledged we'd never get it printed. It's never going to get past the post. He loved the design and said, guys, have the files to print off and do what you want. And yeah, that's a beautiful figure. That's this one here as well. I've brought that close to the camera. So that's him there, fully painted up.
I can't do two things at once. So yeah, we'll get to that at the end. So hang on. There we go. Hold it back up again.
Hanging on. That's the mutt.
Yeah.
These cameras are nuts. Painted up. Again, multiple painting styles. You do learn how to paint once you start playing with these. Do different layering, different shades. Start off with black and build on it, or start off with grey and add black to it, or washes. But that's a beautiful figure. That's one we're never actually going to see from character, and he was gracious enough to acknowledge that and provide the files. Some of those I've actually got. Yeah, sorry, Dags.
Oh, I can pause the pictures now. Sorry, I just realised I had that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you can go back a bit, Dags. No.
All right, I'll have to do it. So sit tight, and I'll get back to you guys. You can have a bit of a conversation. And how far back do you want me to go?
Just back to where we see that clown figure, just about 3 seconds from where you were.
All right,
Aaron,
we'll get to that in a sec. So you have a bit of a. You want the clown figure, yeah?
Yeah.
So I think
while we're talking about that, yep, go for it.
I think as a Doctor Who fan and someone who collects the toys myself, pretty much everything you have on your shelves, I would love to see produced as an action figure. And I'm sure many Doctor Who collectors would love them too. One of the things about Doctor Who collectors, especially from the classic series, most of them are men in their 30s, 40s and 50s, and we've been waiting for these figures since we were kids. So it isn't a case of we choose the figures that come out that we like. Anything that comes out, we're going to like and love in most cases. Is that with you? Do you have favourites, or do you pretty much just love them all?
I have favourites for different reasons. I have favourites for the amount of time and what I achieved when I made them. This one, not necessarily what everyone would regard as a favourite monster, but certainly a favourite for what I achieved.
Yeah.
Now, that head came from overseas, from one of these 3D designers. But the leaf work on that, I was able to play around with green stuff and make those little green stuff's like a molding epoxy putty. And I was able to make that The body underneath that is a Silver Nemesis Cyberman.
Yeah.
And then
So
that's what
you
I
would
come
not
out with by the end
recognize
of it.
that at all. And one of the things I've got to give you credit for, Shane, you've kind of a jack of all trades where you've talked about you get some of the stuff printed, you customize some from other figures, you paint stuff yourself, you also use decals where
Yep.
you can't get the detail to your level, and then also you go beyond the Doctor Who line. I mean, for example, I've seen you cut legs off dinosaur figures to use as Silurian hands. So you think outside the
Yes.
box as well. So I've got to
The
give you
$2
kudos
shop.
for that.
The $2 shop is a treat for dinosaur feet and hands. You can buy these absolute nasty little dinosaurs packs. $5 or something for a pack of these weird dinosaurs. But they work. Actually, with that in mind, this figure I put together a couple of years ago, again, a head from overseas from one of the designers. The body is a wrestler. And those legs, I think it's from a My Little Pony. I found this cheap My Little Pony that I could just chop the legs off of. So you buy the little pony for $5 or $6, and then you just make it, put it together to make it work. It's just, it's almost feels like you're back in the old. In the UK, they'd say Blue Peter, but we're going to say Play School days, where you make stuff up out of toilet rolls and you put this together and you make all this. Yeah, I didn't mean another clown, but that clown. So that uses a frill that I was able to commission somebody to put together on 3D myself. The torso on that one is a Toby Z. That's a very versatile figure, Toby Z, if anyone wants to know about what figures are good to use a lot of, because Toby Z's got like a skivvy, what we call a skivvy, and it can be used for Steven Tyler from the 60s. It can be used for Ian from the 60s. Any of those male 60s figures can use these skivvies. Barbara there is a Pyrovile princess figure. The Famasi green one there is a 3D designed figure. Those helmets are a joy. Pause, Dags. All right, the helmet on the left. That's okay. Yeah. The helmets on the left, they were made by a 3D designer who I work a lot with in Canada. He's a great guy. We've communicated a lot over the years. We've done about 130 small projects together, like little helmets or little hats or things like that. In fact, he actually designed that cyber console in the back there. So it's one of those things that I started working on, started playing around, keeping myself amused, and then before you know it, there's all this.
It's very impressive, I've got to say, dude. I was really blown away by it. So
thanks.
Yeah.
You've probably seen, some people may have seen some of my model work as well with the models you're selling in the shops as well, because I spent a bit of time sprucing those models up for you guys a couple of months ago, or last month.
Have you got any room in the cabinets for any more, or have you filled everything up?
No, I've filled everything up.
Well, what you probably have to do is sell the hardbacks off to get the room for more custom figures.
Hardbacks aren't going anywhere. I still got to find the Unearthly Child non-library.
Okay.
Hang on, I'm gonna cut off. That looks like great. That looks like. Hang on, I'm just going to cut you off. Who's that remind you of in the background there?
Mr. King himself.
Yes, Mr. Greg King. Sorry,
he must have celebrated. He must have celebrated when he could finally stop wearing the 3rd Doctor outfit. He could wear a 12th Doctor one.
Yeah.
So sorry, just in case this video is seen by anyone, a quick wanted. Shane collects hardbacks, and one of the ones he's particularly trying to track down is the Unearthly Child in hardback non-X library. So if anyone watching this at any point has one they'd like to pass on to him, just let us know. Now I have another question.
Yep.
Have there been any figures that you did because you're like, oh, I'll just do it, and not that keen on, and then when you completed it, you're like, wow, this is one of the best figures I've done, like a total turnaround from what you thought it was going to be?
Mummy on the Orient Express, Clara.
Okay. So
I started that
holding
up. Yeah. So can you see that?
I think Shane's holding it up.
Yeah, I'm watching the video, mate. I'm excited by the pictures. Yeah, sorry, dude.
This one was one that I thought, oh, I'll give it a try. I'll give it a shot. I had a Clara head that was designed with that hairstyle. And it's just one of my favourite figures. Again, all this work here is decals. So you can go on the internet, you get a photo from the production, and you can use Photoshop to cut out the dress, print it out on decals. There's a little method I use to make dresses and skirts called heat shrink. Now, that's kind of bringing real world into modeling, where heat shrink is like a plastic rubber tube that electricians use to slide over. They slide it over wires and then put heat on it so it shrinks it into place. So when you slice that, slide it up a figure, apply a bit of heat with a, what are these things called? You know, those clickers.
Oh, just a light, like
a lighter clicker. You click that, and you can shrink the rubber and the plastic to the shape of the figure, and then you've got a skirt or you've got a dress, and it's kind of replicating the way they will do skirts and dresses with the PVC in the actual figures, but we're doing it with a rubber heat shrink method, which is something I was really happy to have discovered. Now, if we actually look there, that.
Sorry, I can't.
Chang, what was his character's name? Chang Mei? No, Chang. That was actually a Lee Sing Chang. No, anyway, that was a ace top, a jacket. But because he's a smaller character, a smaller male character, that worked as a male jacket. So you can blend from female to male with the body parts as to how it'll work. Again, there's a reuse of a skivvy. Now, in recent years, thanks to Philip, she's still waiting for her head. Thanks to Philip at Sirens of Audio, I've been able to have VIP dinners with some of the companion actors and showed them all the figures I'd made of them. Katie Manning was absolutely blown away, as was Wendy Padbury. I'll be taking my Fraser Hineses along to show Fraser in September, and any other guests that Phil brings out in the next few months, I'll also show them. I think
the idea of using decals is absolutely ingenious, because all the modelers I've known have always just painted products, but actually use decals. That's really out of the box thinking, dude. Well done.
Even I went and bought one of these. You know, even using that, I just can't get it accurate enough to get those little and look good. So that's why I've gone down the decal path. Like that,
very clever.
Decaling it. Brian there is decal eyes. He's a mixture of Rory parts. That 11th Doctor in the orange suit had bits sanded off it. That was the 10th Doctor orange suit costume. Now, someone in the comments made a comment that their 200 figure would become $2 worth $2 if they.
Oh, that was Russell. Yeah, that was way up there.
Well,
yeah.
Pertwee doesn't cost $200 to buy for starters. You could probably get a Pertwee figure for about $40 or $50. And applying colour to change the costume, most of these customs hold their value at around 100 plus Australian dollars on the resale market.
Yeah, and you say that, but so I've seen customs being auctioned, and if two people decide they want a custom figure, I've seen some of the English auctions go up to £400 or £500 for a single custom.
I'm being humble here by saying they just go for 100, but there are some that would actually soar right through.
So not only do you do customs of the figures, you do a lot of accessories and some mini play sets as well. Are they just from downloaded designs online, or are they sort of a mixture of your customization and files from Facebook?
A bit of both. I think some of the out-of-the-box thinking makes you look at your garage, look at, I don't know, trash and treasures, or look at garage sales, and you start to look at stuff, you think, I could use that. Oh, if I put a bit of paint on that looks like a Spiridon jungle. If I paint that up, I've got a bit of a brickwork there.
I've got a question for you. Do you mold and cast your own so you don't have to buy more heads?
I have experimented with that. I still haven't. I don't do a compression. I believe some proper molding and casting involves air pressure compression. I've just used Pinky Sill and one of the other products from, I think, Kirsty, who asked the question. Was it Kirsty?
It was Dave. Dave. Oh, that was
sorry.
Christy earlier, but Dave
It was Christy. Sorry. Yeah.
Question.
Anyway, whoever asked that question, a process is to use like airtight compression, whereas Pinky Sill is stuff you pour 2-part epoxy sill. What are you doing going in my drawer?
No, this is the video. So, did you want to show this? Apparently, this is your workshop. So, this is some of the bits and pieces you use. Yeah,
I haven't actually seen this video. Where else did you go?
Well, don't.
Just like to point out,
I have tried it, but I can't get rid of the bubbles.
Yeah, I did say to Shane I was going to open the drawers and show pictures because I was impressed by all the body parts and heads he had stashed away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all body parts for future needs. A couple of Time Lords are in the works. There is a Sasha Darwan Master there that I've since replaced with a full body kit. So I'm playing around with that one. What else did you look into?
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so there's more doodads and thingoids. So
yeah. So
I mean, every craftsperson has leftover bits. So
that's my painting palette. That's my tub of leftover heads. You know, more than the French Revolution. A couple of Time Lords on the right there that I'm working on. So
very cool. Well done. That is absolutely fantastic, man. So I think you've blown everybody away. I certainly didn't expect to see what I saw, and I can't imagine they're all standing up. You got them all so close together. It just must be like almost like dominoes if one decides to go.
Was it 2 years ago we had that earthquake?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no. The female figures since then now go onto stands. They go onto plastic stands. Yeah. Oh, that earthquake was a nightmare. Before I do go, I just want to mention, if anyone is interested in looking up and starting any of this, a good website is 3D Printing Doctor Who. If you just do a quick search on that. The person who runs that will not do anything that Character Options have already made. And if they do make one that he's come up with, he'll delete those files off. So is that right? He'll delete those files off.
The other thing before you go, if your arm is twisted, will you make customs for other people?
Yes, definitely. Recently, I've made a couple of Daleks and painted those up, which one of Aaron's mates was very interested in. I will make customs, but it is hard to put a price on a custom. There he goes. It is hard to put a price on a custom because it can depend on where the parts have to come from. So
that's a custom that Shane painted up for me. It's like a Dalek that wasn't from the series. It was actually from the 60s comic books and artwork. So I have one of Shane's customs in my collection.
That was designed by a fantastic fella in the UK who put that together. He does a great job. What was I saying?
I don't know. But
prices of customs, but we can work that out.
Yes, the price of the custom, it can depend on bodies. Like this one, for example, is a quick and easy custom to make a Primord from Inferno. The head's designed. That's a Weevil body. With a bit of luck, you can get the Weevil body from Aaron for about $25, $30. And there, under $50, you've got a custom. You've got a custom character that's never been released, and it looks quite great. Other times, it can get up to around $100 to get parts together.
So, with that in mind, we're almost about to wrap up the entire show. So,
sorry,
what we're going to let. There's probably a lot more we could talk about, but if you ever happen to be in Aaron's Collectibles, you can pop in. You might see Shane there. You can have a chat to him one-on-one and see some of his fantastic work. Mr. Shane, it's been a pleasure to have you on, old son.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your collection.
All right, I would raise my hat to you, but it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, we're going to send you back to the groove. It's been an absolute pleasure. Party hard, rock on, and we'll see you around the trap. So everybody just say, ta-da, Shane. Okay, see you, dude.
Gents.
Catch
Thank
you,
you all.
Wait.
See you, dude.
How good was that, mate?
Well, like I said, I was blown away by how impressive his collection was. I hadn't seen it for a little bit, and went over with Mark, actually, who was watching the show tonight, to show it off to Mark. And I was blown away myself because I hadn't been there for so long.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, you know, and because there's so much to talk about and there's so much to cover off. The timing is very, very limited. So unfortunately, we've had to cut it a bit short. We did actually have another segment coming up, but we're going to leave that for next week. It's actually relevant to what's happening on the weekend, which I'm going to leave people hanging on that one. But so for those who do want to find out what's happening in the world, if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the Sci-Fi Zone socials and YouTube and Instagram and whatever else. But most importantly, you might be saying, well, I want to go and meet Mr. Shane in Aaron Stall. Where the Ken hell is that? There it is, Mr. Aaron. How exciting is this?
Well, I am sure if Shane ever wanted to meet up, he'd be quite happy to it. It'd just be a matter of teeing it up through me for him, or I guess messaging him. And I'm quite happy for anyone to come in the shop and have a chat about figures and Doctor Who, because that's what we love. I have been doing a clear out today, and I actually found boxes and boxes of Doctor Who stuff I didn't have. I didn't realize I had stashed out the back. So there's new Sixth Doctor TARDISes and different older Dalek collector sets and things that have gone into the shop today. So if you're looking for a figure to smash apart and rebuild and customize, we're the shop for you at the moment.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, there you go. Well, all right, we're going to wrap it up for this evening because there's very, very exciting stuff going on all around the world. What can I say? Mr. Aaron's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to catch up with you on Saturday. Is that right?
Yes, this has been an ending without warning.
Yes, exactly right. Absolutely love it. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. A special thanks to Shane for joining us as well. First time we've had a guest on the show. We had to work out some of the logistics of the videos and we have the screens all worked out. And even I pushed a couple of the wrong buttons from time to time. But we got stuff figured out. We may even bring more guests on in the absolute future. How good would that be, Mr. Aaron? Dudes and ladies talking about stuff.
That would be amazing. And the other thing I'd asked, do you think there'd be the possibility of cutting that section down just to release the little video on, I guess, the customs and us interviewing Shane?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That's an off-air question, as they say. Anyway, fans, we're going to buzz off. I'm going to leave you to it. And otherwise, we'll catch you all next week for a bit more talking stuff.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Another Docky Who episode. Excellent.
Just what I did not need. Okay. All right. See you guys. Take care. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
See you.